guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Yvonne from Ginger Chick Rehab. I'm so glad to have you back. Check it out what Chris and I are up to. In today's video, I am bringing you, yes, pop cans. So I created a video a little while back where I made 3 different projects using drop cloth, and it was just an overwhelming, you guys enjoyed that kind of content. So ever since then, I've kind of been looking at something that's not always me making over thrifted items, even though this part will be, and then that too was making over thrifted items, but let's add a little bit different spin. Yes, so I'm going to be taking apart the metal out of aluminum, out of pop cans or beer cans, whatever we all have, because we don't really drink that much pop in our family, to make a couple thrift flips over for you all using some of the metal from, yes, pop and beer cans. So yep, here are the supplies for my 3 different crafts. Though I am pretty sure I'm going to need more metal, aluminum cans, but these are the items that I am going to make over and add some of the metal to. Now these 2 vases have been metal and I have had them forever. Oh, I can't even, can you see? I don't know, it's probably faded off. It looks like since November I've had those. And then these 2 pieces, the green piece, this tall boy, these were my friend Kathy's mom's estate pieces. So I'm happy to make them over, and I'm sure she's fine with me making them over with a beer can and pop cans. So first things first, all 3 projects need the metal from these pop cans. So I did a lot of little searches of trying to figure out what was the easiest way to tackle cutting out the metal of a can like this. So you just, plain and simply, you got to get to it and do what works for you. So puncturing a hole and then just cutting off the bottom and the top is what I am choosing to do. So now the flowers that I want to make, I kind of thought that I needed to have the labeling taken off or taken down a notch. So I did, in my research, I saw a lot of people using pressure cookers to take off the paint or the labeling. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. So I did see other sites where they showed that they just took, a sander and tried to sand it off. So that's all I'm doing is just taking my mouse sander. I know that my biggest pieces I'm probably going to use for my petals. So, I'm just got 80 grit on there and taking some of that bright blue off. For my next step, I need to figure out how to flatten these out a little bit because they keep curling up. So there again, when I was researching how to cut them, how to get the labels off of them, So they plain and simply just an iron, some parchment paper, and it's not a quick iron like you're trying to get a wrinkle out. It is leave it on there for a minute, 2 minutes, really get that warm, press it against another board. Now this is my shop iron, so I actually ended up giving up on the parchment paper, but if you have your good iron that you use in your house for your clothes, you may want to use the parchment paper. But eventually I gave up on the parchment paper because this is an iron that we've used to strip veneer and whatnot. So it's not the cleanest. I think what it wants you to do is not to be able to, in case any of that paint comes off on your iron. But what I ended up doing is heating the metal of the aluminum up for about 2 minutes. I kind of just walked away, left the iron right on top of the metal. I did without the parchment paper. 2 minutes, took another board, put another board on top of that. That way, as it was cooling, it would start to flatten out. Now that I have them as flattened out as I think I'm going to get them, at least it's more workable. Even though we rinse our cans, I still, with everything, they just need another cleaning. So I'm just taking some disinfectant wipes that we bought really cheap at Menards just to clean these off. And you think that they would be sharp and you'd be worried about that, but I made it through this whole process and didn't cut myself one time. But unfortunately now we have to let those sit off to the side because I have this item that I want to put some labels on, but I need to fix it and get it all painted up. Yep, this was a piece from my friend Kathy's mom's estate that she let me go through some of the estate things, and yes, a little chest with some drawers, but unfortunately one of the drawers was broken, but that is a pretty easy fix. Just trying to figure out which pieces and parts go back together, and a little CA glue and a little bit of the dryer, and I think I can get this put back together. Now that is a nice easy fix. It's not a heavy wood by any means, just a little bit of that Starbond CA glue will definitely keep this together. So now I'm just getting it cleaned off with some Superclean, some hot water, and yes, I'm actually going to stick the drawers back in. These are a lot of little drawers I'd have to tape off. So for the first time ever, I'm going to try to spray something with the drawers in. So I have my Graco handheld 360 sprayer all filled up with some ready-to-use black onyx flat paint. So let's see how this goes. I have never attempted to spray with drawers in before. And then I'm going to seal that in after that black paint is dry with some Rust-Oleum clear coat. I haven't peeked yet to see if my inside of my drawers were a mess or not, so let's hope not. Nope, they actually look good. So yeah, it's better to test it out on a small piece than a piece of furniture. You just never know. Anyway, so now I'm going to go back in and all those little areas that didn't get with the sprayer. It's just minimal, so I'm just taking some of that Waverly black ink. And the nice thing about the Waverly black ink paint is it matches up that ready-to-use Walmart brand perfect. I do need to seal those edges in, so I'm just going around a little bit with that same clear coat. And then I would like to distress my edges, so I'm just taking my mouse sander at the right angle just to save my hand from all that rubbing back and forth with sandpaper, letting the mouse sander do the work for me, especially since I know that I did not pre-sand these. It was just that type of finish, and I want to get past the green to get to the natural wood. The mouse sander is definitely going to help me achieve that. And then I'm going to take some fine grit steel wool and sand the rest of the piece, making sure that it's nice and smooth and opening up that polycrylic. And now to tie this all together, you may have a little bit of that green showing, but that'll be okay with some antiquing wax to blend it all together. But definitely brightens up that natural wood and then just richens up that black paint. Now I want to make some number tags for these drawers. That was my idea for the metal, to just make those little numbers pop. So I'm going to go ahead and print out, this is sticker paper. So I downloaded these from Etsy. I loved that they had the black circle around it. So all I'm doing here is just copying it, putting it into my Excel program so I can size it to the size of labeling. It has those enamel wear ones, but when it prints out on the copy paper, it won't have that white background. But yep, I'm just sizing it to what will fit on my drawers. Now when you put it into your copy, you want to make sure that you're printing it onto the shiny side, but it will be wet, kind of like the wax paper technique. So I needed to dry those first, and then on this one you need to seal in. I'm a little worried because it didn't print out as dark as I was hoping it to when I did the research on Pinterest, and maybe it's because I have an inkjet and not a laser printer, but we'll go ahead and see what happens. So I sprayed it with some clear coat, dried that way it doesn't smudge. I only need the 1 through 6, so I will save the rest of them for another project. I just want to cut those out. I still am a little leery of touching them, even though I know that they're on there. I have made labels for clear jars before, but yes, they did print out darker before, so it could just be what this is. I'm not sure. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to attach it right to this whole pop can aluminum, but I'm going to tape it down that way when I'm peeling off my sticker part that this doesn't move on me. Now I just need to get my numbers cut out. So surprisingly, it's very easy to cut with scissors. So making the round shape, probably not as easy as cutting a straight line on it. Now that I have them all cut out, I need to attach them to my boxes, my little drawers. So what I'm doing here is I'm pre-drilling a hole to go through the metal and go through the box. And then I have some little bitty flathead screws that I thought will look very vintage on the here. So I'd like to tell you that I kept those as is, but you just couldn't see the numbers. So here I am taking them off. So yep, I took them off, and now I'm going to use these stickers that were in a clearance at the Goodwill. 59 cents. I'm not really out anything, and I've used that label paper, but I'm going to go ahead and put the number sticker on there and then put that label paper over it to protect that sticker. Sometimes it takes you an extra step to get to your happy place, and now I definitely love these. Now we're on to this little green caddy, and not anything it needs to be fixed, it just needs to be cleaned off before spraying it with that same ready-to-use black onyx spray paint. This one is natural in the inside, so I want to get that spray painted up too. There's kind of a line where it's been painted before. And then sometimes when it comes to little cubbies or drawers and I see stuff in there, I'll just take my air compressor and blow anything extra out. I got it all painted up and sealed it and protected that paint. Same thing, I'm going to use that mouse sander to distress the edges, get past that green and get to that natural wood underneath. Now I want to make a metal label for my little caddy. So all I did was go to my computer. I just printed out garden seeds, and I actually made it so that my font was bold. So I had a lot of space to work with when I go to emboss these letters. I'm going to cut down my piece of metal to a little bit more workable size, and that's going to be the label that's going to go on this little caddy. Nope, you didn't have to mess with any of reversing your wording or anything because you're just flipping the piece of paper over on the part of the can you don't want to show. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape down that metal so that it doesn't slip around yet again on me. Now I'm using an embossing pen that came with my Cricut tools, but you could use like a pen that didn't have the pen pushed out. You could use a screwdriver, like a Phillips head screwdriver, just something that you want to emboss that metal, but you don't want to push terribly hard because you don't want to go through that aluminum. So all I'm doing is going back and forth over my letters just a few times to make sure that I'm getting them clear onto the other side. And after I think that I've got it, I'm going to go take that paper off and then go over my letters a couple more times because I want to make sure that you can see them on the other side. And now I'm going to go in with that flathead screwdriver and I want to give this a frame around it. So I'm going to go ahead and just one by one tap very gingerly. I don't want to go through. I just want to make the mark in this aluminum. So I'm just hitting it with the hammer a couple times. That's kind of going to frame in my word. I do think I forgot to mention that I'm using a scrapbooking mat that has a cushion on the back of it. That way, so when I was tracing my letters, it could go down. If you have a hard surface, it may not go down as far. So I really wanted my letters to pop. So I was lucky enough to have this on hand from my card making days. Well, of course, and scrapbooking too. But now I'm going to do the same thing like I did for the others to screw this in place. I'm going to pre-drill a hole in each one of the corners and use one of those flat head screws to hold this in place. Oh man, I was a little sad that my line on the bottom went down a little bit of a slope, but never fear, I planned on popping the words a little bit more using some patina anyway, so I'm going to use this combination of rust patina to pop out those letters a little bit more, and so where it's going down, we will just hide it with a little bit of extra rust. Yep, these patinas are my new addiction. I'm always finding something to use them on lately. I think I'm going to order, there's a brown rust color too. I can imagine what the three colors together were popping. I know the one small can wasn't meant to go together, but I just love the combination of all the colors on top of each other. It just gives it a more authentic look. So I really am thinking I need to get that brown one too. I'm not sure if I have to seal them in or not, but I always like to protect what I just worked so hard on. So a little bit of clear coat to seal this in. For the final one, it is these little metal vases that I've had probably longer than I'd like to admit. It just wasn't right moment for them. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for them, if I just wanted to paint them and resell them, or look at, I waited long enough and now I have an idea for them. So first off, I'm taking the air compressor, blowing in the inside, making sure there's nothing in the inside before getting these cleaned up and sprayed. I'm just going to spray these with the Rust-Oleum paint and primer in one in the flat black, and then seal them in with some polycrylic. Choosing to go with polycrylic because the clear coat Rust-Oleum I do not trust on metal. Sometimes it gives me crinkles and wrinkles, and I do not want that type of finish. So I will always go to my trusted for sure polycrylic when it comes to metals. I went to the interweb, I searched just a simple flower. This was as simple as I could find. Now I'm going to copy the image, I'm going to drop it into my Excel program. I'm going to kind of guesstimate. I want to do a 2-layer flower so it has some 3D visual going on there. So one's one size, one's another size. I printed out as many copies as I thought I was going to make petals and flowers for. So now all I'm doing is going to cut out in just a square all the little flowers that I made. Then I'm going to use a double stick tape to stick them onto the aluminum. Oh my goodness, look at that mess. My sweet husband Chris helped cut all these petals out. Now I'm going to actually leave the paper on them because I'm going to go out and spray paint them. I think the sanded off version would be okay if that was the color I was going for, but you know me, I'm a black and white girl, so I'm gonna go ahead and spray the backs of these with Rust-Oleum paint and primer and then seal it in with a little bit of polycrylic, and that way I have the flower color I want on the one side, and then I'll go ahead and remove that paper. That'll just protect it. Now we're going to have some fun constructing the flowers. Now I knew that I needed to make a hole in the middle of these, and little did I know, God wink moment, that I had gotten rid of 99.9% of my scrapbooking card making to do what I do now. But there were pieces and parts like this little thing and the mat that I'm using that I use for embossing. This is a hole puncher, it just makes a hole. So little did I know that, you know, I kept it. So yep, this is what I'm going to use to make my hole. It's just a little punch. I'm sure you all could come up with something to make a punch into your tin. So yep, I'm just going to double layer my flower. One's a little bit smaller than the other. I think I did like a 3-inch and a 2.5-inch, just slightly off on when I size these. So just going to puncture a hole all the way through. Didn't need to order a wire because I already had this wire left over from a project when I made those felt leaves for that beautiful wreath, so I have some of this left. But the thing now, I need to figure out that I don't want my petals moving up and down, so I know that I'm going to need to twist to make that little center of the flower. So I'm just going to take that punching tool and wrap the wire around that just a little bit, a few times, just to make a circle, that way that it's not sliding back and forth on this wire. Then I'm going to bend my petals up a little bit. I don't want my flower to be flat. I spent all that time making those petals, so let's have them popping. And now on the back of this, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it too, so that way that flower is nice and tight. And then I'm going to give it one little loop in to make sure it stays. Okay, if you haven't heard me say love, 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 oh my gosh, how awesome are these flowers? So now I need to figure out how to get them to stay inside this vase without moving around. So I just have some of the Dollar Tree floral foam, and now what I want to do is I want to make it a nice tight fit. That way that the foam is, when I go to push the flowers in, that it's not pushing that foam all the way through. So it's better to cut it off bigger than what you need so that it's a nice tight fit, and then you can rub the excess. It really disintegrates quite easily to take the extra off at the top. This is not really one of those cases where you use that dollar store Spanish moss grass stuff. it just would not look right to me anyway. So all I'm doing is going in with some Waverly chalk paint in the ink, and yep, I'm painting my foam. Now I can cut some of my wire and start placing my arrangement together. Yep, I just could not see, I didn't want to see that green. So I can cut about half of this wire off, probably save the other half for another project maybe. But yes, and through all my touching of this, that paint stayed on them. It did not flake off. I'm happy about that. I was a little unsure with how that all was going to work. And so now I'm just going to make an arrangement with my florals. So I ended up having 9 flowers all together. I probably should have cut one more can. So it'll be 4 flowers in one vase and 5 in the other. But I do have a couple other little pieces that I can add into the vase that match the brown wire. So I hope that you enjoyed watching today's video as much as I had fun making it. I will admit I was a little intimidated by doing this, but I was trying to find something that's off the beaten path that, yeah, I just thought it would be fun to try. Nope, I've never done it before. So yes, it was actually a lot simpler than I thought, and I am just at awe with how these turned out. Wow, I definitely will make labels for drawers again. I love the flowers, and I love making that label, the garden seed for the caddy. Yep, I probably said love way too many. I had a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoyed, and let me know down in the comments if you will give this a try, or are you a little leery like I was? Nope, I didn't cut myself. No bloody fingers anywhere, guys. So thanks for watching today's video, and as always, if you're part of my YouTube family, thank you so much. And if you're new and you're checking out the content for the first time and you liked what you saw, please hit that subscription button along with the notification bell so you know when we've uploaded a new video, and we will see you next time, guys, and you can see what we're up to. Bye!